Om Namah Shivaya, Asinist Fire, here on the way of Dharma. Guys, please make sure that you do subscribe. To those of you who are new to the channel, Way of Dharma, and to the returning viewers who decide not to subscribe, please make sure that you do subscribe. Make sure that you do like to help the algorithm recommend it to more viewers and more YouTube users. Our topic today, we are going to talk about the slave race. So before we continue, I'd like to salute the God and goddesses of the day Friday. So let us first start with the lighting of incense, and then we continue with our thing. Om Namah Shivaya, Asinus Fire. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shukraya Namaha. And I'd like to give thanks to the goddess Venus. I'd like to give thanks to my ancestors. I'd like to give thanks to those higher spirits that make sure that this information and knowledge is accessible to me. I'd like to give thanks to everyone who loves me. I'd like to give thanks to my haters. I'd like to give thanks to the supporters of the channel. And I'd like to give thanks for the donations. And I'd like to give thanks for your participation in the comments. I'd like to give thanks for you finding benefit in the way of Dharma. Our topic today, we are going to talk about the slave race. What is in actuality the slave race? Okay, before we even go further, guys, let me just do a pitch. For those of you who are in South Africa, please make sure that you do check me out at asenest.fya@gmail.com. Check me out for consultations. Check me out for purchasing of products, and check me out for readings, of course, for numerological readings. So guys, I sell these products for those of you from South Africa. I sell these at a very, very affordable price. I've started to sell these this year. This is actually the 7 chakra bracelet. Yes, in plural it's bracelets. There's stone bracelets. You can get one for tiger's eye, you can get one for rose quartz, you can get one for obsidian, and so on and so forth. So guys, I sell these at a very cheap price. Make sure that you do check me out on the email address that will be provided in the description below. So guys, I also sell these. These are actually iron rings. For the past weeks, there's been someone who's been testing me, trying to send witchcraft my way, and there's been someone trying to basically mess with my peace. So I got these, and then I've decided to sell these. These are also very cheap. You can also check me out on the email that will be provided in the description below. So why do I have these iron rings? These iron rings, iron is a very, very powerful metal. It protects against fairies, it protects against the evil eye, it protects against demons, it protects against low vibrational spirits in general. It's a very, very powerful tool. When those aforementioned spirits sense the presence of iron, they run away and they have no chance against you guys. So I sell these at a very, very cheap, affordable price. I also sell the Nazar anklet that will be seen on my foot. This is to be worn on your left foot. It's a knot basically. When you wear this knot, it protects you against the evil eye. It gives you the blessing of the Lord Saturn, Lord Shani. When you wear it, immediately you can feel the difference, because it does what also? It balances out your digestive system. Suppose your gastrointestinal tract is in an imbalanced state, this will help you to restore that balance. You will feel it right away, and it also nullifies the effects of the planet Saturn. So guys, if you want to pacify the malevolent effects of Saturn in your birth chart, please make sure that you get this, which is an iron ring that will also give you the blessing of Shani, and also the Nazar anklet. I also sell silver bracelets. I also sell copper bracelets and brass bracelets for those of you who are in South Africa, of course, and I will make sure to provide for the international customers or viewers as well as time goes on. So guys, what are we talking about? The slave race. Okay, before we go further into it, let me show you something about creation. You know, the other day I was thinking to myself, just deep in my thoughts, you know, sometimes we give birth to children, of course, and then when you give birth to a child, you give them a certain name, you give them a certain personality, and then you give them a certain purpose of life. You know, it's very, very deep. I don't know, maybe it's because we decide upon the roles that we play before coming onto this planet, of course. So now you give birth to a child. After giving birth to a child, you give them a certain name, you give them a character, a role to play, and a purpose to life. So what are you in actuality creating? You are creating a human being, and you are engineering that human being according to your desires and according to your perception and your way of thinking. Basically, you are orchestrating and engineering a race to basically live under you, under your tradition, under your rules, under your thinking, of course. So on the other hand, you hear of stories of people raising children, of course, only to marry their children. Some of them, they have sexual abuse relationships with the children. Okay, why is it correct to raise someone to go to work for someone, serve the state, and do all that stuff? And why isn't it correct to create someone and to make them your slave, basically? You know, for me, when I think of those two scenarios, it's really, really, really bewildering me, because in those two cases, you are engineering a race, you are engineering a human being, you are creating an AI, an artificial intelligence. So guys, when you give birth to a child, you give them a purpose, you give them a way of thinking. You are in actuality engineering a human being, engineering a soul, basically. So what different would it be from those that raise their children only to marry them, only to molest them? Because you can remember, guys, if a person comes and then they are predisposed to those circumstances, they cannot tell any difference, because it has been their norm from their birth, basically. You find stories of people being molested from a very young age. They find it and see it as a norm, because they think that's how growth is in the common household of people. It's only when they find out that it's something wrong based on societal standards. I'm not saying everyone should go out and do that. I'm just going deeper in your mind and provoking your thoughts into this slave race topic that I'm talking about, guys. So, guys, I'm not saying or endorsing or encouraging people to be doing that. Okay. So, guys, it's a very, very sad thing to see that human beings, we are procreating and creating one another only to fulfill our purposes, our thinking patterns, to fulfill our karma and our shortcomings, basically. You find people naming their children under certain names like lucky or gift, gift from God. It's a desire from the parent talking to the universe and then creating in flesh form that desire and making it alive, basically. So the child will end up living and having the name of lucky. And then we go back into influence magic. If you use magic to influence people, they say that it's a wrong thing. They say that it's not a moral way to be conducting living, basically. And then you look at their tradition, ancient traditions in life, basically. When you know the temperament of your child, when you know everything about your child, you can also meet up with maybe a neighbor or a relative, in the case of cousins, basically. And then they would know their temperament, you would know their family, and you would do what? You would arrange a marriage between the two parties to ensure a harmonious relationship, very, very fruitful and committed relationship between those two parties. In some cases, it's a way to mend relationships between neighboring parties that are in conflict, basically. So you would raise a daughter to send them off to a neighboring conflicting rival to make sure that you mend the relationship by sending your daughter. So in actuality, you've created a soul, you've brought a soul to this planet to make sure that you mend a relationship with your rivals. How does it feel to that daughter being sent out to actually go and mend a relationship between two rivals? Is it a good feeling that the daughter feels? Is it a good thing or a bad thing that you are doing? If you ask me, that's beyond comprehension of the morality standards and the law of duality, of course. So now it goes to show you that we can't be existing for the purpose of having free will, for the purpose of having free thinking, because already when we are born, we are predisposed into this environment that gives us information, that molds us into a certain character, a certain way of thinking, giving us a vocabulary to shape our lives and limit our growth in consciousness and in material acquisition in this lifetime. So if you ask me, in the case of using influence magic to make someone fall in love with you, is it a wrong thing? Is it a good thing? I only view it as similar to being in an arranged relationship or in an arranged marriage, basically. You find cases of ancient people giving their daughter to someone who would be regarded toxic and someone who has traits of beating up the wife and doing all that stuff, but they would be sent off to marry that person with no remorse. So in the case of having such such magic being done onto you, everything happens within the divine permission of the universe, basically. Everything is permitted and everything is divine. So if it happens, it is divine and it's meant to be. So guys, those of you who are saying that you can't use magic to make someone fall in love with you, guys, it's another way of making an arranged marriage. Only in this case, the conscious candidate would be you making a decision to fall in love with the other person. So do I support the fact that you should abuse your power to abuse the other party? I don't think not. Do I think it's a wrong thing? No, I'm not looking at it in terms of wrong and right. I'm looking at it in terms of spiritual development, consciousness, and higher vibration frequency. So if you abuse a person, you are lowering your frequency, thereby enhancing your karma and enhancing the chances of you reincarnating back to this planet. It is said that this planet is the hardest to be in terms of the universal cosmic school of learning and occult and mysticism. This would be the hardest planet to be on, to actually learn these things. So now we go into the slave race, guys. Guys, we are being manipulated every day, if not by our environment, by higher forces. If not by higher forces, by our loved ones. If not by our loved ones, by our parents. If not by our parents, our children, our teachers, our employers, our acquaintances. Everyone is constantly manipulating us, trying to make us to behave in a certain way. So now let's go in ancient times, back into ancient times. The story of creation, it is said that the giant Antu or Anu created the first human being. So how did the first human being come into play? The human beings that we know of today are a degraded version that came after the version of giant human beings who have supernatural power, who used to live for long periods of time existing on this planet Earth. So now the Antu giants or the Anunnaki giants wanted to create about a slave race to manipulate and breed, basically. So they did what? They went about into the universe, different planets, gathered certain specimens of DNA to combine for this new experiment that they were doing. So they got the DNAs from many other entities and aliens and extraterrestrials. They combined the DNA, and also inside of the DNA you hear of the DNA of the gray aliens, you know, those short guys with big eyes. And then there's also a taller version of those entities, which are the tall grays. Basically, they are said to be a taller nature of the gray short aliens. So guys, what exactly are we talking about here? We are talking about many genetics being combined to create about a human being. So in that genetics, you also find the DNA of the Anunnaki. Guys, there's many Anunnaki. Some of them, they look like me and you. Some of them, they look like white people. Some of them, they look like Indians, Chinese, and all the races that you see on the planet. So the DNA was gathered and it was brought into experimentation. So the first human was alive. But now, because of this factor, when you create a hybrid, the hybrid cannot give birth to replicate itself. So now surrogate mother, which is Mother Isis, the divine mother in some mythological texts, was said to have volunteered to incubate this race, you understand, in her womb. And then she did so, and then when she did so, the first human was born. So guys, this is the most dangerous part of this information, of course. How dangerous am I saying it? Guys, when you start to see what I'm talking about, you start to see the depth of our DNA programming and why we are constantly in situations whereby we are vulnerable to becoming slaves of a higher person, a higher entity, a higher energy, a higher power, basically. So guys, this human was brought into existence, and remember, this human contains among it the genes of the the alien grays, basically the extraterrestrial alien grays. In South Africa they call it Mantindani in the Zulu language. I don't know what they call it in Sesotho, my language. But yes guys, let's continue. I bet you do have the picture. So guys, the gray aliens, what are they in actuality? I read a book, The Custodians, talking about the gray aliens by an author named Dolores Cannon. The gray aliens, it was said, their creation process is not similar to our process. There's a liquid that is inside a certain incubation instrument. The liquid is similar to slime. It's a slimy, transparent liquid that is used to incubate. The one similar to the liquid that you would see in strange sci-fi movies, of course. That incubation system is linked to a certain computer, and then parallel to this incubator there's many other more going to that direction, and there's many other more going to that direction, going in a circle, in a spaceship connected to a certain computer and program, basically. So the alien gray is said to be coming out of a capsule that is inserted in the incubator, and then it goes on to grow to becoming a baby, to becoming a fully grown short alien gray terrestrial or extraterrestrial. So guys, it is said that this being is very, very intelligent. Even in their infancy, they can speak telepathically. They can sense certain things. They have enhanced spiritual faculties, but they are programmed to be a slave, to take orders, no matter how spiritual they may be, no matter how high the faculties they may be. They are genetically engineered and modified to become a slave race, a race that takes orders and follows orders without no rebelliousness and rebellious spirit, basically. So guys, you see now that the alien gray, the Mantindani, is in fact, in actuality, a tikology, a homunculus spirit, or a homunculus robotical artificial intelligence genetic alteration or genetic experiment. So guys, when you take that into consideration, you see that now that we have the genetics of the alien gray inside of us, we are vulnerable to anyone enslaving us and employing us and putting us to work. You understand? And us being enslaved by entities like Yahweh and the other spirits that claim to be God over humanity. So guys, another thing that they put inside of our DNA is what? Is their DNA, the Anunnaki DNA. So the more pressure you put upon the human beings, they get advanced. They advance dramatically and rapidly, and they get to reach a certain height of achievement in consciousness and in material acquisition and in mental evolution and in spirituality, basically. So you put more pressure, the human being comes back more stronger. So that's the advantage of being the slave race. So guys, why did I title this the slave race? It's because we have the genetics of the alien race that was orchestrated and engineered to be a slave race. So that aspect of our nature makes us very, very vulnerable to any higher force that has power or higher commanding will. You understand? So guys, that genetics inside of us is very, very alarming and very, very detrimental to our growth in spirituality, in consciousness, and in mentality. You see now, this incense is going in through and making me cough and all that stuff. So this is what I wanted to discuss with you guys. Also, let's go into the effect of the tikology. Guys, genetic experiments have been done throughout time and are still being done now by the most advanced scientists that you might see in America and Europe to the most primitive witch doctor and traditional healer that you will find in Africa. Stories of the African snake. It is genetically orchestrated or engineered from certain elements of the earth. Certain elements of creating a soul are being used. That's why they can't replicate themselves in many cases. In the case of a tokoloshi, a homunculus spirit, you can take an egg and then you hollow it out. After hollowing out the white, the yolk, you combine it with your sperm or your spermatozoa, fertilize it, and then return the egg white inside. After returning the egg white, you close it with a certain parchment paper, and then as time goes on, you bury it, and then after a certain time, it goes into a homunculus spirit, and then you feed it a certain type of diet, and then it grows to become something that fulfills your desires. Also, you can give birth to a human being, an infant, and then there's certain stuff that you can do to genetically alter them in their brain, close certain faculties, and they become a robot, an artificial intelligence. Stories of zombies being revived while they are dead, to animate them, to make them genetically engineered to be slaves to serve a certain purpose. You hear of such stories all over the world. In India, you can animate a dead body. In Haiti, you can also animate a dead body. In Voodoo, Africa, everywhere, you even hear of stories of Mkovu, Sithotzela, you understand. Even in South Africa, we still have that tradition and culture of doing such things. So it's all over the world. Genetic alterations has been done. Almost in every civilization, there was a slave race that was done or created or engineered to serve a purpose of another race, of course. In the stories of Credo Mutwa, you hear of stories of Zaharalel, who is the first wizard who performed magic and genetically altered or created a race of stupid slaves that were law-abiding. They could eat until their stomachs would explode upon the command of the slave master. So guys, you hear of such stories. Later, that slave race was combined with advanced race from that period of time, that civilization, and then it gave birth to the modern day human. You hear of such stories even in our African mythology, not just in the Emerald tablets or in the Sumerian or Sumerian tablets. So guys, please make sure that you do contact me on the email. The things that you would learn from a numerological reading, guys, when you start to initiate into magic, you know little bits about yourself. Numerology, when we do this reading, you will know certain aspects of yourself and what to avoid, your lucky days, and the energies that you would align to get about a better result in your magic. And I can also advise you on the certain mantras that you can chant that would be in alignment with your certain numerological energy. Guys, numerology is just another way to read energy. It's all reading energy. When a person gets born into this life, certain energies are at play of creating that physical body. Certain energies you inherit from your father, certain energies you inherit from your mother. So that makes up your temperament, that makes up your physical character. You know about that physical character, you interpret it by the way of numerology, you become a better magician. Make sure that you do contact me, guys, on the email arsonist.fya@gmail.com, arsonist.fire@gmail.com, arsonist.fya@gmail.com. If you want to learn more about influence magic, and if you want to influence someone to love you, to make about an arranged marriage, you can also contact me on the email. Make sure that you do leave a donation in my PayPal. The link will be linked in the description below. Please subscribe, like, and make sure that you share. Om Namah Shivaya. Let us study the higher occult arts. Let us study the higher occult spiritual information to become about better souls. Make sure that you come back in a better reincarnation, a better circumstance, and a highly pious lifestyle. Om Sahana Bhavato, Sahanao Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yes, I didn't do the Mavid Vishavahai. Let's do it again. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahanao Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu, Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Comment and make sure that you leave the email. Anything that you would need help with, please contact me on the email arsonist.fya@gmail.com.